Just over a year ago, I reviewed the glorious Model D, and it was okay, but I wasn't really impressed with it, and especially not enough to main it either. Then quite a few months later, I decided to review the Model D- as well, and same thing. It was an okay mouse, but it had some issues, and I was not really the biggest fan of the shape. So when Pulsar reached out and said, hey, do you want to review the XLITE? I was mildly interested in it, but not much. And over the past 3 weeks of using this mouse, it's actually pretty good, and I like it quite a bit. And for some reason, all of a sudden, this shape kind of works well for me. Maybe because I've been using some other mice that aren't necessarily ergonomic enough for me, and maybe now I'm coming to more appreciate the Ergo shape and like the Zowie EC-ish shape. But yeah, I got some really good opinions about this mouse, but not everything is perfect. Quick word from today's sponsor, CDKdeals.com. At CDK Deals, you can purchase genuine Windows keys for just $16 to get rid of that pesky activate Windows notification on your desktop. Use code TMT20 to save even more at checkout, and purchases are made securely through PayPal as well. After you complete your purchase, it will automatically take you directly to your account where you can see your new Windows key, and I will just copy it there. To use the Windows key you just purchased, go down to the search bar and type in activation settings and click change product key and enter the key you purchased. CDK Deals also offers other software and games as well for excellent deals, so be sure to check them out at the links in the description below. Thank you CDK Deals for sponsoring this video. In the box you will have the mouse, a set of grip tape that I actually like quite a bit, and slightly more than I do the grip tape on the Hottie S Wireless because I feel like it rejects a bit more moisture, so it feels even more grippy without feeling kind of slimy like lizard skins. And then you also get this micro mouse bungee in the box as well with an extra adhesive strip. The fact that on the bottom of this mouse there really isn't much of a bottom. Basically you just have like these little tendrils that come apart from the center of the mouse and extend out to the sides and basically the rest of the shell. And instead of using holes, the top and sides of the shell have all these little vertical slits that I think actually look pretty good, and they're a lot more aesthetically pleasing. And personally to me, I don't really find that they interrupt me in gameplay at all. Holes never really bothered me either, but I do feel like this is a bit of a better implementation for people that are pretty sensitive to holes on the sides of their mouse. And I feel like this is a really good way to cut down on the weight of this mouse, as this is a pretty big mouse. Pretty nuts that for not having a bottom and having all these vertical slits across the entire mouse, that you don't hear really any creaking at all. Now as far as the mouse buttons, you have Omron 20 mils for the mouse 1 and 2 buttons, and then these side buttons, I don't exactly know what they are, but I will say they are pretty muted and they're not extremely tactile either. I wouldn't quite call them mushy, but they're not bad. They don't bother me at all, and they're quite comfortable to use and pretty easy to press. Now the scroll wheel, on the other hand, the scroll wheel itself, as far as moving it forward and back, is extremely soft and light, but the scroll wheel press, I will say, is a little bit firm, and I wish that it was a bit lighter because that would just make it easier to use for quicker presses if you have to press in your scroll wheel more than once. It's nothing that I would say is bad about the mouse, but it's just a little bit firmer than what I say I'm used to on the Model D as well as the Logitech G Pro Superlight. The sensor that this one is using is the PAW3370, and I haven't had any issues with the sensor at all. It's running at 1000 Hz polling rate, and the Pulsar software is actually extremely simplistic as well, which I had no problems downloading it and customizing my DPI. There's no DPI button on the mouse, but you really don't need it if you only play on one DPI. You don't really switch between more than one DPI very often. I never do, so I don't really look for a DPI button on a mouse, but it is kind of nice to have. Usually I just remap it to media controls, but not having a DPI button on a mouse is not a game breaker for me. On most of my main mice over the past year, they haven't had DPI buttons either, so it doesn't bother me. Now the primary mouse buttons on this mouse are the Omron 20 mil switches, and they are incredibly crispy as well. But the thing is that I noticed on my copy, at least on the mouse 2, sometimes the button turns from being crispy to crunchy, which is really weird. It doesn't happen that often, but it's happened probably about 4 times within the past 3 weeks, and I've tried to like replicate it on camera, but it hasn't happened again for me. But basically what happens is when I press down the mouse 2, sometimes instead of it being really crispy like it typically is, I I get like almost like a double or even triple tactile feedback. So I feel like it's just a problem that I have with my copy here. It doesn't happen that often. It doesn't interrupt me in gameplay, but like I said, over the past 3 weeks, it's probably happened to me about 4 or 5 times. And it's not the end of the world. For me, I would just RMA this mouse and get a different one, but that's just something that I wanted to mention that did happen to my review unit. The second problem that I have with this mouse as well is just the fact that the cable is really not that great. Pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I would paracord it if I was gonna main it, but I'm not really too worried about it because Pulsar actually gives you a pretty nice mouse bungee that attaches to the bottom of your monitor, included in the box at no extra charge. I like that mouse bungee quite a bit. Like, it's super simple, super minimalistic. You don't have to have anything else on your desk. It's just a little wire basically coming down from your monitor, and I think I like the aesthetic and the appeal of that mouse bungee as well, and it works pretty well. So basically it eliminates the problem of the terrible cable on the mouse. And can they update the cable to be better? I would like them to, because I would just see even more value with that, especially for the $60 price point. But if they don't, at least they give you the bungee in the box. But still, you should work on updating the cable because it could be better. The mouse feet on this are pretty good as well. I don't really think that they're bad. I would say that they're on par with about the Razer Viper Ultimate mouse feet, which I would say are just very middle of the road mouse feet. So if you want to upgrade your mouse feet, I would say probably go with some Tiger Arc 1 or 2s, or even go with a set of core pads as well. Those would be some solid upgrades that you would actually notice the difference in the mouse feet here. If you go with something like Tiger Ice Skates, I feel like you're going to get a very similar experience. Like, it might be mildly better, but not much. So if you are interested in checking out some aftermarket mouse feet for yourself, I will leave a link to Lethal Gaming Gear in the description below, and don't forget to use code TMT to save some money at checkout and also support the channel. But anyways, getting back to the XLITE, I had no issues other than that mouse 2 button that I have to report, but I'm pretty sure that I probably just got a faulty unit with a bad Omron switch. But otherwise, structurally, this mouse is extremely sound. Comfort wise, it's very comfortable to use for long periods of time as well. Like, I probably will main this mouse for my editing mouse since I spend a ton of hours editing. And gaming wise, like, I perform really well in game with this mouse too. Like, it's absolutely insane. I've never played so well with a mouse that's this shape until I tried this one. Using the Model D and the Model D minus, even the Makalu 67, I find that those are decent mice. The Makalu 67 I like a lot more over the 2 Model Ds, but this mouse I like just a little bit more than Makalu 67. That mouse has a better paracord, but otherwise I think the Pulsar XLITE is a really good mouse. The only issue that I have to report again is just that mouse 2. Sometimes I do get like that weird crunchiness on that button, but I feel like it's just a faulty Omron switch, and honestly I would prefer if Pulsar just switched over to KLGM 8.0s. That would be incredibly nice to use on a mouse like this. Like, those switches are just a lot better than Omron 20 mils. I don't really mind too many mouse clicks. Like, I'm not really too picky where like it'll make or break or decide like which mouse I get over another purely based on the switches. But now that it seems like everybody really likes those KLGM 8.0s, it probably will have more of an impact, especially going forward in the future. And Omron switches, I feel like, need a little bit more work for them to be really worth it again to start putting in newer mice. But the next thing that I want to see from Pulsar, I know that this mouse is both available in black and white, but I would love to see a wireless version of this mouse. Like, if you can make a wireless version of this mouse with a small wireless dongle, like not some Hottie-S wireless garbage, if you can do that and keep the mouse around like 55 to maybe 56 grams, I mean, that would be absolutely insane to have a mouse with this level of build quality, swap the switches to KLGM 8.0s, and wireless. I mean, that would just be really, really cool. So Pulsar, that's what I want to see next. And the $60 price tag for this mouse, I think, is incredibly fair. It would be nice if it was like 50 bucks, but you know, it's not really that big of a deal. So, but if you guys are interested in picking up an XLITE for yourself, I will leave a link in the description below. That's gonna be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, feel free to drop a like and subscribe if you guys are new to the channel as well. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and join my Discord, and I'll see you guys in the next video.